I'm the Hoppy Ferret, and I'm here to review a beer I bought in a glass that I definitely didn't. And I want to ask, are you a punk? Are you a punk? This beer seems to think that it is. I picked this up from Morrison's because I'm a sucker for a gimmick. This is of course BrewDog Punk IPA. It's in BrewDog's old school, spelled with a K, branding. Fortunately, probably doesn't taste the same way as it did back then, but this is not a new thing to moan about. You know, I'm not one of those people who is going to be like, I remember when BrewDog Punk IPA first came out, it was amazing, it was tropical, it was spiky, it saved my marriage. And because I wasn't old enough to drink it when it came out, because in 2007 I hadn't even started secondary school. But I've graduated from secondary school now, just about, and somehow managed to get 2 degrees. So here I am talking about beer, because that's the dream. It is, actually. Yeah, as I said, I'm a sucker for a gimmick. I like the branding of this. It's cool, it's retro. I suppose, is it retro now? It's definitely a postmodern classic. Let's crack it open and see what we get. Pouring into my BrewDog glass, of course, on brand. But yeah, I sort of went through a period where I kind of stopped drinking punk as much. I remember during the pandemic, I was certainly university as well. I was sampling it pretty regularly. And yeah, to me, it's, you know, they've gone through the ABV changes. This is 5.4%. I think, you know, it was once upon a time it was 5.6 or 5.8. I think they did reduce it down to 5.2 at some point. So interesting to see it above that. I don't know if I'm making that up, but this beer has definitely changed over the years, and you know, it is what it is. I don't really sit in that camp of BrewDog's changed so much. It's, you know, this beer is, if they came out, it's the perfect analogy for BrewDog is Metallica, and I'll get onto why in a little bit after I've had a wee sniff. And it's still tropical. There's some pineapple. A good friend of mine rebrewed this from DIY Dog, and I got a lot of rhubarb from it, and that does kind of present. I don't know if I'm just kind of imagining it now in my head just because I smelt it back then. I think it came from the Atanum. Am I pronouncing that correctly? I don't know. But definitely some pineapple. Is it spiky? Yeah. I think that's more on the taste, isn't it? I'm dripping a little bit there. And lemon. A little bit of herbalness to it as well. But yeah, it just doesn't... I don't think it punches as much as it used to. And that's what I really... you know, really enjoying in an IPA. It still definitely has its place. I still pick it up, I still drink it. I don't know if BrewDog's still mentioned in their pubs when Punk IPA was kegged, like when that specific keg was tapped. Haven't seen that for a while. I quite liked it when they did that. Because you did get to see how fresh the beer is, and they didn't do it for every single beer, but they did for Punk, and I don't I don't seem to remember seeing that, but then again, I don't really look for it on the tap list. I'm always looking for non-BrewDog beers, because they do get some pretty good guest beers in, and they do, yeah, this isn't a BrewDog pub review. And some marshmallowness, like, not vanilla, but like kind of that softness, that soft sweetness from like a white marshmallow. Or again, probably possibly the rhubarb, that's what I'm picking up, but yeah, I picked that up quite a bit in this beer. That marshmallowiness. And as I keep saying, pineapple, maybe a bit of tin cherry. And like lychee if you really want to stretch it, but yeah. We've got a one finger white head there. Carbonation is coming up pretty nicely. Let's see what we get, and I'll tell you about that Metallica reference. Yeah, not as spiky, but still a good beer. Still yummy. I'll still pour more of it into the glass, and I have gone through the other 3 cans of this from the 4-pack that I bought. I bought these for the skit, that silly little BrewDog marketing video I did, wherever, as well as Jaipur, which I'm going to review very shortly. That is a very nice pillowy head. So yeah, Metallica and BrewDog, what do they have in common? Well, they both started off really great. Kill 'Em All, fantastic album. Some people will say Ride the Lightning is better, but they're wrong. BrewDog, Punk IPA, apparently. Fantastic beer when it came out. But just as Dave wrote 'em all for Kill 'Em All, Martin Dickey brewed 'em all for BrewDog, and then he stopped, and then Dave Mustaine stopped writing for Metallica. And then BrewDog came out with these iterations of Punk IPA. They came out with the Eton Mess beers. They came out with, what other kind of ones flop? I don't know, actually. Because there are some really good beers in BrewDog's quote-unquote discography. Electric India I mentioned. Then they came out with Indie Pale, that's a good one, and Planet Pale. There we go. Those are the really scraping the bottom of the barrel beers. Thankfully I think BrewDog's picked it up since then, but those beers were... And just as Metallica went from here, they swoop, and then they released Saint Anger and Load and Reload. That's not where the analogy finishes, because just as I don't think that this is a bad beer, I don't think that Load and Reload are bad albums. And we should remember that. If any other company came out with this, people would be like, yeah, it's an alright beer. It's an IPA. It's got a little bit of tropicalness to it. Doesn't punch you in the face. It does leave like a weird kind of sweety aftertaste, but some people might call it farty, I don't know. But it's not a bad beer. And just as if another band came out with Load or Reload or Saint Anger, it'd be like, okay, I'm not going to buy tickets to see you, but good job. But I don't really know what more to say about this one. And I do kind of need a wee. It's, yeah. It's an IPA. It's not particularly special. There's a little bit going for it in the rhubarb, the kind of tin cherry that you, if you really search for it, you can find. Kind of bitterness at the back end. Like sort of, I think I mentioned this quite a bit, but kind of like at the root, like the roof of my mouth, but towards the back of my mouth. That's kind of like where it's sitting at the moment. I much prefer it kind of by the jaw, where it really like hits you like a snare drum. Not a trash can, a garbage can, or bin lid, depending on where you're from. You know, and for that reason, you know, I mean, I wanted to give it a 6, but I just wish they could kind of dial back some of that rhubarbiness. Or marshmallow. I'm still undecided as to what actually that flavour is, but it's not horrible, but it's a little bit overpowered. Lemon. Yeah, it's a bit too lemony for my taste. Yeah, I think they could just... I love lemon, I love the flavour of lemon in beer, but there is a point where it becomes a little bit too dishwasher liquidy, and I think that's kind of where this beer is approaching. Feels weird pouring with my right hand. Doesn't feel right. Ha! So for that reason, I think 5 out of 10. Yeah, why is that sweet? Why am I smelling so much sweetness in that? It's not a worty sweetness. Maybe it is slightly, but I don't know about you, but whenever I think of an IPA, I think of something that it doesn't necessarily whack you in the mouth and, you know, spin you around the room, but you know you're drinking an IPA. There is a sort of flavour that, you know, if you were to drink this when you were, you know, 18, first starting drinking, or 13 if you're from Scotland, that you think, this is horrible, get this away from me, I want Ribena, or I want my Heineken and my no tasting Fosters. Do you remember ordering Fosters at the bar? But I feel like that same reaction that you have with this beer is more concentrated on those kind of overpowering, and I'm very hesitant to say this, but artificially kind, like, it gets to the point where it's kind of a little bit artificial, like, I just don't think it's well balanced. It needs to come down with that lemon. Oh yeah, funny enough, I think they either need to increase the malt, which is going to increase the alcohol, so they're never going to do that because that means more taxes, or higher tax, or reduce the hops. But then if they reduce the hops, I feel like it's going to kill the beer a little bit. Like, I don't know, have BrewDog kind of taken punk IPA and dragged it through all of its iterations, and they're kind of sitting with it like, what do we do with it now? I know, let's bring it out with our old school can design and hope that people don't see how off balance we've made it. One final point before I leave is I went to the Bermondsey Beer Mile a few weeks ago with the aforementioned friend that brewed the rebrew of Punk IPA, and we sat down and had a lovely romantic dinner or lunch. We did have a romantic dinner, although I don't remember too much of it because the fucking room was spinning. Pardon my French. We sat down at Inspoons, had a lovely lunch, and he ordered a punk IPA pint. I was like, oh, you know what? I haven't had a tap pour. I haven't had an actual pint of punk IPA for a while. So instead of going for the Guinness, which I normally would have done, follow my Instagram account, Guinness Bliss, I ordered a punk IPA in solidarity with him, and it was a fantastic decision. It wasn't by no means the best beer that we had that day, but from the tap, I really enjoyed it. I was like, this, I was drinking it. I was like, this is a good beer, and in the can, it's just not as exciting. It's not bad. It's not great. With that, I need to wee. Cheers.